Good morning. Today is July 31st, 2022, and our saint today is St. Ignatius Loyola. Now, St. Ignatius is the founder of the Jesuits, the most famous current Jesuit being Pope Francis. And it, in a lot of ways, took on a military framework in the Jesuits because he was actually a military. He was trained as a knight and as a warrior. So because he was trained as a knight and as a warrior, he is, that's how he was. That's just the way that it was. What ends up happening is he is injured by a cannonball, which shatters his leg. After his injury, gaining him military fame and a reward from the Spanish throne, he is convalescing. When you break all of the, or when something breaks a bunch of bones in your leg, even now, it's not something that you're going to bounce back from pretty quickly. In the 1500s, if you survived it, that was a miracle, let alone to bounce back from it or walk again. So he was laid up for a while, and as he's laid up, he begins to he begins to read books. The books that they had available to him at the time, there were no kind of the novel, adventure novels or romance novels that he was looking for, and he ends up reading on the lives of Jesus and the lives of the saints. So as he's reading on the life of Jesus and the lives of the saints, he begins to have an attack of conscience, and this attack of conscience causes him eventually to see a vision of Mary. He goes to her shrine outside of Montserrat near Barcelona. He stays there for about a year near Montserrat, sometimes with some Dominicans, sometimes in a pauper's hospice. That would be somewhere where poor people would go to die. So, like what Mother Teresa had set up for the poor in India, somewhere like that. And at other points, he was often off in a cave. During this point, he's having this whole internal struggle with his scruples, and he just cannot seem to find a peace of mind. And it's a harrowing event for him, and he eventually is able to find peace of mind again. And once he does, even though he couldn't find it through prayer or fasting or the sacraments and penance, he did finally find his peace of mind again. And there is a prayer he has that it's for when you're in a dark place or for, that kind of thing. So he goes and he begins working to find the Jesuits. He had gone to visit and studied at various European universities. He was not a particularly adept student necessarily at first because, of course, he had missed much of his early education because he had been trained as a knight. So the training you would receive in the knight would not be the training that you would receive at a university. Universities basically were set up to train, by the way, priests, lawyers, and doctors. They were not set up to train anybody else. So as a result, he was a little behind the curve when he got there, but was able to eventually study and have that worked out for him eventually. So it did take some difficulty for him too, but he was able to eventually. Like many of the other saints at the time, his orthodoxy was questioned by various officials throughout the church. This is during and in the middle of the Inquisition, in the middle of the Reformation, and all of these other things going on. So the church is, cracking down on anybody who's stirring the rocking the boat. And definitely he was rocking the boat. In fairness, he was not alone. Saint Teresa of Avila and Saint John of the Cross, both also Spanish saints, had the same run-ins with the authorities at the time. He actually was jailed briefly for 2 periods. In 1534, at the age of 43, he and 6 others, including St. Francis Xavier, vowed lives of poverty and chastity and to go to the Holy Land. Now, he was actually able to get to the Holy Land, but he was only able to stay for a little while because the people there didn't really care much for him. The Turks in the area were not overly thrilled to have him there, and especially since he had been a former warrior, more than likely, he was, not allowed to stay for a whole long time. But Paul III does finally allow him to form a society of which is now called the Society of Jesus, and it is basically on top of apostolic service. Basically, they dedicate themselves to apostolic service to the Pope. So basically, they, in addition to the vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, they take a special vow of obedience to the Pope, and that they will not accept promotions unless, or higher office unless ordered by the Pope. Various others were sent on missions by the Pope. Ignatius stayed in Rome, helping to consolidate things, and he was able to still find time to help orphans, catechumens, and other penitents. He founded a college in Rome, which is one of the ones early by the society, and was a mystic. His life was centered on the foundation of Christianity, the Trinity, Christ, and the Eucharist. And that's about all we have there now. The final vow that they actually took, the Jesuits take, is that they'll go wherever the Pope would send them for the salvation of souls. Okay, so basically, they take the 3 vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, and then they take the 4th vow that they'll go where the Pope sends them, if the Pope asks them to go somewhere. So a lot of times they are sent on missions to places where other people, other orders will not go because it's not safe. So the Jesuits sometimes will go places where other orders won't always go. And that's about it for today. Again, this was the life of Saint Ignatius. It's not a complete by any means, but there's movies on it, there's books on it, and everything else. So your best bet would be to check it out if you're interested in reading more on St. Ignatius. Okay, and have a great day. See you tomorrow.